I listened to Maria's presentation and I quickly cheated. What is advertising solving a problem? So we have the same answer on that. And basically this is incorrect, but it's how I've structured how I think about things. How do you solve a problem? The answer to that is with an idea. This is what I go through in almost every sort of creation of an idea that I come up with. How do you solve a problem with an idea? How do you share that idea? With a voice. How do you create a voice? By being selfish. So I guess that'll be the sweet spot there in the middle is, I think, where great work comes from. You've got your client's idea. You've got an idea that's going to solve your client's problems. That's first and foremost. You have to do that. But you can do that without making good work. You can just solve the problem. How do you share that idea? With a voice. You can even have a good idea and share it, but if it doesn't have a distinct voice that's going to make people pay attention, it falls flat and you haven't done your job. How do you create that voice? And that's sort of where I'm going to focus here, by being selfish. The easiest way to come up with something that's going to be a memorable voice is to use the things that you already know. To use the, to steal all your dolls. I want to say this is a creative director at Wyden named Ryan O'Rourke, and I had just gotten there probably 6 months in, and we were doing a pitch, and I had like cracked it, just 100% cracked it. It was for Vitamin Water, I think, and I did all the things that we were supposed to do. It was smart. It like answered the brief perfectly. It even was able to help the product extension that they said was coming. We didn't have to talk about that any later. And I was so proud of it, and I put it up on the wall, and he was my partner we're presenting, and he just sort of stopped and looked at me and was like, hey, I guess that does it, but do you want to make that? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, we have 3 months of this, we got pre-production, we're gonna fly to LA, you're gonna work really hard to get it right, and then at the end of the day, you've sat there for 3 months doing this thing that's like, it's fine, but it does what it does, but is that the thing that you want to make? And it sort of set the course for the rest of my time at Wyden, which is, there's always another answer. So what answer do you want to give it that gives it a voice and gives it some strength that you can draw from? And that makes everything easier. If you're writing about things that you already know, things that you're passionate about, things that you're interested in, you're going to be better at your job than anybody else, rather than someone that's copying an ad or seeing something they've seen before. This is a Calvin and Hobbes I liked. I'm writing a novel. What's it about? It's about a guy who flicks through TV channels with his remote control, because they say it'll write what you know. I think what I was going to do is take you guys through, I know we're under a time crunch, take you through some of the work that I've done and my pals have done, and talk about, it's fun to dissect backwards and think, well, how did they come up with this idea? How did they, what inspired them to sort of do this? And you can see how it's truly just selfish interest, what you surround yourself with, what you do when you go home at night and watch TV or browse Tumblr or do whatever you want. That's the stuff that makes you, and then you're given this problem. That's how good ideas come out. So here's a series of things. We won't probably get to all of them, but this is some stuff that we've done over the years. It was pretty easy to point out what made this, where this point of view came from. So it's either friends of mine or work of mine that I can speak to sort of confidently. This one is an Old Spice campaign called Believe in Your Smell.
Repeat after me. I am the best.
I am the best.
I have big muscles and
I
cool
have
hair.
big muscles and cool hair.
I have a sophisticated and diverse group of friends. I own an environmentally responsible sports sedan.
Environmentally responsible sports sedan.
I'm breaking up with Heather Graham because I need my space.
Breaking up with Heather Graham because I need my space.
Wait, what?
I am winning all the
I
sports.
am winning all the sports.
I believe in myself.
It's an earnest ad. My partner Max Stinson and I worked on that, and that came out of a very, very A plus B scenario that I was listening to a lot of Tony Robbins at the time, and his motivational language seemed very funny to me, but it was also something I was doing, and we had sort of talked about that as we have a lot of words to get out, we have a lot of ways of pushing together 13-year-old boy interests in the way that's spoken of in this giant, remarkable, you can achieve anything way. Seemed like it was good for Old Spice. This one's my pal Craig right there. Is an old Skittles commercial that we should watch. It looks terrible, sorry, but it's old.
Good. Good. You're in Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
I have a cousin from Mansfield.
That's nice.
Your resume looks good, but we're looking for someone with more experience.
Experience. Oh, funny.
Share the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
Craig shared with me that this was one of his first ads, and he'd been going through a lot of horrible job interviews and how awkward it was for him. And the idea behind that was to give it a little power and to make it awkward for the person giving the interview. It was pretty quick. Now this one is interesting. The idea is not a selfish interest. The idea is a selfish idea I had when I was 15. I saw Terminator 2, and it's I don't know how much it was, a $200 million movie. And in the middle of it, it's like, we gotta call this number. And it was, call it quick, 555 12. And I just roll my eyes like, that's that fake number, we all know it. Like you can't, why wouldn't you just have a real number and then have it call something? And I remember thinking that was sort of like a funny way to do that, but what would they call it? And it sort of went away. Anyway, this was our Old Spice hair campaign. And if you'll notice,
along with
in the middle,
coating, that is a polymer ceramic cross-section. With the use of new combinations of materials, stretching the boundaries of our current technology, we've investigated use of polymers in conjunction with ceramics, connecting the glass.
So that's a real phone number that that pretty lady wrote for that ball of hair. And so people on YouTube, when they started to watch this, noticed like, oh, that's a strange number, and they called it. We recorded 5 or 6 voicemails from that lady saying, I'm not here right now, and different things. And then after 2 or 3 days, when it was starting to pick up, one of us at work picked up the phone and gave away 2 pairs of Super Bowl tickets. And so then it exploded, call this number. And then after another 2 days, we gave away another 2, and it ended up costing a lot of money. I guess those are expensive to have those voicemails. But that was just, again, I'm starting these to just sort of, it's not anything you can teach, but I think it's something you can unlock, which is, I feel when you're in school and you're learning and, oh my God, these ads are amazing. They're these top tier, gorgeous things that how can you get with? They all came from somebody who just had an idea or an interest and they squirted it onto the page to solve the problem. This one is a famous ad from Little Penny from Jim Riswold, who works at Wyden Kennedy, and Stacey Wall, who's now a director.
What are you doing? Hey, you know the only time you guys yell box out is when you're out of donuts. You guys remind me of my shoe closet. I got 1 penny and a bunch of loafers.
So the genesis of that idea came from Stacey Wall, but the creative director and the producer were sitting in a movie and they saw the trailer for Do the Right Thing. This new guy, Spike Lee, that had this cool new weird movie coming up, and he had some dunks in there. He said they both looked at each other and said, this is probably right? And got on the phone with him, loved the movie, and he ended up, that was his first commercial Spike Lee had done. And then I just actually texted him, how did you guys pick Tyra Banks? And he said, oh, Stacey wanted to sleep with her. So that's another type of selfish that you can invoke. And then this one is just something I've done recently. I'm very interested in animation and the old style of animation. I suddenly got down this rabbit hole of watching Disney movies in the 50s and then just sort of some earlier animation stuff. So I was put on a Coke Super Bowl brief, and I decided I didn't want to do anything that wasn't animated, so I only presented ideas that would be animated. I don't know if they noticed, but they ended up making this. It didn't go on the Super Bowl. It was too pretty. But we ended up, it took 2 years because we used, we hand animated every frame and hand painted it, and it was a huge pain in the ass. Actually, this ended up being one of the most expensive mistakes we made because someone didn't get the right approval at Coke, and they thought the original dog was too fat, so they had to go and redo the entire dog again, which was, when you hand paint everything at 36 frames a second, takes a minute.
I've got a joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Deep down in my heart, it's down in my heart. I've got a happy, happy, happy feeling down in my heart. Deep down in my heart today, I've got the grandest, greatest feeling. This feeling's really here to stay. And it's a joy that needs revealing. So I just want to say, I've got a joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Deep down in my heart to stay. Down in my heart to stay.
So that's a bunch of, oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a labor of love. They were really mad at us by the end of it, but it's, we're always getting yelled at. Yeah, that's, again, there's no right answer when it comes to solving a brief. So you might as well do something you're already passionate about. I had a huge leg up when it said, oh yeah, we'll do an animated one. I suddenly had 10 animators I wanted to work with, and I had a style in mind, and we had a way that you can have a class. I don't know if you noticed in there, but there's not a car. It's the most generic clothes we could have gotten, so that could have been filmed in 1950 or 2010 or whenever it was. All of that because I just sat and noticed Oscar shorts and animated shorts and the things that they were doing. I better explain this before you guys walk out of the room. If you were in a type of class where you can recommend things, On Writing by Stephen King, I think is the most.
Best book on writing.
It's the #1 thing that every writer, art director, and probably just creative person in general should read. My favorite part of it, there's many. But he talks about the book Carrie and how he came up with the idea for Carrie. He was a janitor. I mean, he was 22, 23, and he was just sort of very interested in telekinesis. And he was learning about telekinesis and how that worked, and they were reading a lot of scraps and articles from different places. And anyway, he was a janitor in a high school and went into the girls' bathroom and said, "What is that little metal thing?" And they were like, "Oh," the guy was like, "Oh, it's a tampon dispenser." Well, he said, "No, girls need them here." And he started thinking about it and looking about it, and he said just all of a sudden this shot in his head was a telekinetic girl that he'd been sort of thinking about as an interesting character. And that's the most perfect way to introduce her, is having the tampons thrown at her in the beginning of the scene. And he said it just played out for him in this magical way. And he said that's all ideas are. An interest over here, a flash of inspiration. Excuse me. I forgot my water. A flash of inspiration, and then suddenly you've mapped out the entire opening scene, the tone of the book, and the character, and how you're going to fall in love with her. And it was, anyway, I recommend that one. Now I have something called the Kreher system, the most audacious thing. I should know what I'm talking about. But this is something that I've casually done, and just because I wanted to put it in more formal terms for you guys so you can maybe actually use it if it helps, sort of a way to get over writer's block or a way to come up with an idea. So basically, I've broken it down into sort of some easy things to do. Start with a product or service, whatever you got. What is the problem? Remember that all advertising is problem solving. Think of an idea that will help solve that problem. That's easier said than done. Now tell the story. And now you put it somewhere. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's going to help everybody. So basically, it's just an easy kind of roadmap for when you've been given a brief or when you're trying to come up with an idea on your own. So what I thought I would do is do it with you guys together, sort of see what I do. And this is a silly one, but it actually the best idea I've had have come from the very worst ideas, but because you're thinking and creating and writing them down, suddenly you're in a zone and you don't have that terror of I haven't made the most perfect ad in the world. You've just got a lot of ads that start to make sense. So I thought I'd do a little exercise with something that we had done when we did this a couple of years ago with my partner. We're going to start with the product, so we picked lots of products that would be funny to write ads about. Halliburton's a great one. And we actually ended up on stacked meat and cheese. This was a Kraft product that actually didn't go anywhere that maybe you're not supposed to know about. But it was a cheese stick that had meat in it. And yeah. It was, well, there's like a real hot trend with like protein stuff. So people were doing those boxes of cheese cubes and clods of pepperoni and some nuts or whatever. So they were gonna run it on this. And so what was their problem? And I think that you get a lot of people that say like, the problem is increased sales. And it's not true. Of course at the end you're gonna want to increase sales, but there's problems that need to be solving. And in this one it's introducing something new. People had no idea not only what that brand was, but what this blob of cheese with meat in it was. And there was a lot of things that went along with it. It had to be refrigerated, so that actually, because it was real cheese, and they used quality ingredients, and it was sort of an honest way about making things. Think of an idea that will help solve the problem. This is something that can't be taught, and I think that this is a big circle right here, that if you get the other pieces in my career system, then that can lead to it. And it's funny where ideas come from. There's ideas that come from the media buy. There's ideas that come from, I mean, the Old Spice Man You Made It Could Smell Like, the brief was, we're gonna talk to women now. And that was a big enough idea, like, oh, we have a new target from a masculine point of view. Let's talk to women from the voice of this guy on a horse. And then now tell the story. This is where you guys come in, and I know every advertising textbook has a different version of this. Like, what are the types of ads that exist? There's testimonial, there's celebrities, the bandwagon, the product demo, animation. You can have a serialized thing that goes on. There's just, and they don't have to, it was nice when we were doing this, you just put up post-it notes of all these things, and then you just start to pick around. So basically, we would put up, oh, here's a bunch of products, here's a bunch of their problems, and then just start picking, and then you go from there. So, and this one we just decided celebrity endorsement, that's some selfishness. I like to meet famous people. And then you put it somewhere, media. Again, this is now more than ever when you're talking about social media, there's just a million places to put things to get followers and or get people paying attention. So I'd start by crossing off newspapers because that one's not working really well these days. But we're gonna go sponsor pods. That's one that we were having a lot. The new Vice channel is doing this a lot, where you can buy the entire block of the show for your own brand. And that's been a really interesting sort of way to keep people engaged in between breaks and make them interested. So this is very stupid, but that little scenario that we did led to this script, which is LeVar Burton. Hello, I am TV actor LeVar Burton. You may remember me from the science fiction show where I wore that thing on my eye, and also that other one where I taught you how to read. Remember those shows? Good. Now I'm going to talk about this new brand of meat and cheese sticks. They're called Stacked. It's a product that has meat and cheese in it. You like meat and cheese, and I am an actor you like. This is how that works. That'll be $48,000, please. Stacked, it's just meat and cheese. So obviously that's not going on air, but suddenly when we were writing that process, it was like, oh, this is a very honest, flat product. It's not a complicated thing that you do. It's a cheese stick that we stuck some meat in. How can we do this? And we suddenly started to find a voice, which is like, oh, it's this flat, weird, brutally honest voice that's as flat and weird as the product itself and will appeal to, now how do we go appeal to guys? How do we do these in pods? So it's just an exercise. Again, I would encourage you to just talk about this with you, especially with people with writer's block and they feel they can't do it. Just start writing stupid ads. It's really important to just barf them out and then suddenly, oh, you know what, LeVar Burton would be funny for this. Or, oh, it's actually, why don't we do this exact same scenario, but instead of celebrity endorsement, we do a side-by-side. What do you do a meat and cheese stick beside? What is its competitors? It just opens up all these channels. That's really helped me over the years. And then this is a quote I just want to read from Ira Glass. And I think this, people have probably heard this, but it's just perfect. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone had told me. All of us who do good creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple of years you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good, it has potential, but it's not. And your taste, the thing that got you in the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase, they quit. Most people I know who do interesting creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we wanted to have. We all go through this. And if you're just starting out or you're still in this phase, you gotta know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is with a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you will finish one story. It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap, and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. It's just gonna take a while. It's normal to take a while, you've gotta fight your way through it. So I think that if you can tell your young students that are struggling and trying to look at their portfolios and wondering why they have this pile that they don't like, our job as creative directors and sort of people who look at portfolios for a living is to see the little gems. And I love what Maria said, by the way. We were doing the exact same thing. I just skipped now to the personal projects because while spec ads are great and they contribute, there's so much that goes into, you'll see something for a brand of yours and you just roll your eyes because of the 19 ways that would never work with your client. There's so much more that goes into it than you're able to even do. So what we're looking for is ideas, idea generators, people who can find a smart thing and then execute it well. And so most of the best books we're seeing lately are people with some solid work that can clearly do their job, but with the spark that comes from a passion project that they turn to real life. This guy right here is the most perfect example of being selfish and finding your passion. I think how are we on time? We're okay on time. We're okay on time. So this is about 3 minutes, but this is a guy we work with named David Nebel.
My name's David Nebel, and I'm a physicist and copywriter. We're in the frigid but interesting Mad Dog Garage in Portland, Oregon. My Oreo Separator machine is entirely based on the dislike of cream and preference for cookie. It goes by OSM, it's just an acronym. Here's the little on-off switch that I made out of some scraps of aluminum. One of the hardest things to overcome was to learn how to build robots and make them work, but it was also difficult to keep my hands warm and the back of my neck warm. It not only makes me cold to sit here and work on it all day and night, but it makes the cookies cold, and that makes the cream more difficult to separate from the cookie. This is where the Oreo actually starts on the machine. You just place one here. This arm grabs the Oreo and it places it over here. I don't have a catchphrase for my machine, but I guess if it did have one, it could be something like, let's get that cream out of there, or like, this cream's no good, get it off the cookies or something. Then these two panels flip up and get it ready for the first real important process, the division process. I've been working on my machine now for about 0.4 years. Wait, 0.04 years. I used tools and wires and wood and a lot of aluminum and motors. The division process is carried out by this hatchet, which lowers down right through the center of the Oreo, and then I've got this floss to kind of keep the creamy Oreo halves from sticking to the hatchet blade. It was a big time commitment to build the machine. I had to work some long hours. I didn't get to see my girlfriend or my dog for hours at a time sometimes. And I had to try to find like a good sandwich in this part of the city and stuff. There were a lot of sacrifices, I guess. Then these arms will come down to receive the two Oreo halves and then bring them over here to this little tray. And then the tray clamps the Oreos down and holds them and gets them ready for the next step, which is the CNC router table that's going to take the cream off of the cookie halves. I'll power it up now and we can give it a try. All right. 2 clean, delicious Oreos. Yum.